Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on a deep dive into a pretty mind-bending set of sources.
Yeah, it's definitely out there.
Our mission, essentially, is to unpack these claims that, believe it or not, trillions of dollars have been spent to hide an inbound planetary system and a whole host of other celestial anomalies from public view.
It sounds like pure sci-fi, doesn't it?
Hmm.
But the source we're looking at is specific. An audio recording, dated March 13, 2019.
Right, and it uses images, observations pulled from Federal Aviation weather cameras, mainly Alaska and Canada.
Precisely. So this deep dive is really about exploring the extraordinary claims presented in that recording. We'll get into what the source calls sky concealment technology, look at the specific celestial events it points to.
And then kind of broaden out to the implications, the interpretations they offer.
Exactly. It's quite a narrative they build.
So as we walk through this, we want you, our listeners, to consider,
Right.
what if there's more to what we see up there? More than meets the eye. It's definitely a unique perspective we're exploring today.
A very specific one.
Let's jump in. Okay, right at the heart of this alleged cover-up. The source talks about something called the black dot equipment. What exactly are they describing here? What's its supposed function?
Well, this is where the claims get really, really bold. They're not talking about, a camera glitch or some lighting artifact.
Yeah.
No, they state it's an actual device, launched by NASA, they claim, but positioned much, much closer to Earth than the sun is.
Closer to Earth. Okay, and it produces what?
An enormous circular glare, that's their term.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially, they say, thousands of miles in diameter. The scale is just huge.
Thousands of miles across. Wow, that's the scale they're attributing to
Right.
this thing. And they claim it operates with what? Incredible precision?
Apparently so. They argue it casts a reflection on water, which they use as sort of proof that it's a physical object. Yeah. Not just light.
Uh-huh. A tangible piece of equipment?
Yes, and the material posits that it tracks in perfect synchronization with the sun, always positioning itself directly between us and the actual sun.
Always in the way, basically.
Right. And interestingly, they also note that this black dot isn't always visible, especially, they say, not in the lower 48 states.
And why is that?
They attribute that to heavy chemtrail coverage. Says it reduces visibility, makes it harder to spot down there.
Okay, so if this black dot is making a sort of manufactured glare, how does the source tell the difference between that and what we normally call the sun, the real sun?
Yeah, that's a really crucial distinction they make throughout the recording. They spend a lot of time outlining what they see as the real sun versus this manufactured light from the black dot.
And they use specific examples from the FAA cameras.
Oh, yes, very specific. They use footage to illustrate the point.
Like, I remember reading about the footage from Portage Glacier, Alaska. The source shows the sun passing behind a post, right?
Yeah.
A small post.
Exactly. And they emphasize, look, the real sun is huge. It's way too large to be hidden by something that small.
Okay, so that's the real sun example.
And then they contrast that with footage from other places. Burwash, in the Yukon Territory, and Drumheller, Alberta.
What happens there?
In those clips, what looks like the sun, it completely disappears behind like thin posts or even tiny streetlights.
Completely vanishes.
Completely. Their argument is, well, that proves it. It can't be the actual sun 93 million miles away. It has to be this manufactured glare, something much closer, produced by the black dot.
So if a big part of what we think is the sun is, according to this source, just a projection, then what's happening to the actual sun? Where does it go?
Right. This is where the narrative takes another pretty fascinating turn. They introduce the concept of a dark nebula.
A dark nebula.
Specifically, they call it a helium-4 dark nebula. Now, the source doesn't really dive into the science of helium-4, but they claim this is some kind of opaque cloud, and the real sun goes behind it.
Okay, so the sun disappears behind this nebula. And what does that look like on the cameras?
Well, the visual effect they describe is quite dramatic. The sun seems to shrink, like down to maybe a fifth of its normal size. Yeah, appears to shrink. And the whole landscape darkens significantly, like almost twilight midday.
And that's when the manufactured glare takes over.
That's the claim. And the source says that in those moments, you can actually see quite distinctly what they call the amazing texture of this dark nebula. They present that texture as, undeniable proof it's there.
Wow. Okay, so the real sun is hidden, the fake glare is on, and you see the nebula's texture.
And then, eventually, when the real sun emerges from behind this nebula, the scene brightens up again. The sun looks like it's back to its normal size.
It's quite a sequence of events they're describing.
It is. And what's really interesting is how the source ties this specific visual phenomenon directly into their larger narrative, framing it as another sign related to biblical prophecy, the end of the age.
And their claims about this technology, this concealment, they go even further, don't they? The recording suggests it's also used for hiding solar eclipses.
Yes, total solar eclipses. They describe a whole process. The black dot supposedly emits a black beam beforehand, like it's preparing.
A black beam.
That's the term they use. And as the manufactured glare approaches other celestial orbs, or what they identify as other orbs, it actively illuminates them.
Illuminates them, but I thought the goal was concealment.
Well, they emphasize that other technology is also in place specifically to blur these objects. And they point to how the glare seems to react to these objects in the footage. They use examples from places like Uganic Bay, Willow, Port Lions.
To argue these aren't just lens flares or something simple like that.
Correct. They frame this interaction between the glare and the object as solid evidence that it's real and that there's active concealment happening, not just a camera artifact.
And the mechanism is the manufactured glare stays in front of these other objects.
That's the assertion. The glare stays in front, obscuring the object, while the real sun passes behind it. And voila! You've successfully concealed a total solar eclipse from the public, or at least from these cameras.
It's an incredibly elaborate operation they're describing, but their observations of things in the sky, it doesn't stop with eclipses, does it?
Oh no, not at all. The source also presents claims about an asteroid, one that's supposedly in orbit around Earth, visible daily.
Daily, an asteroid.
Daily, according to their analysis of the footage.
Yeah.
And maybe even more alarmingly, they claim it's getting bigger, visibly bigger in the images.
Bigger how? Do they quantify that?
They do. And this is where they try to really drive the point home with specific details down to the pixel level on the screen captures.
Pixels.
They claim that the previous year, around late March, this asteroid was just 57 screen pixels high. Very faint, hard to see.
57 pixels.
But by March 1st, 2019, the time of the recording, it had apparently grown to 73 screen pixels in height.
73. So that's
appearing about 28% larger, yeah. Their argument is that this level of detail, this measurable increase, proves it's getting closer. It's not just some distant object.
And their conclusion from it getting bigger is
that it must be closer, which means, they say, it's in an unstable, decaying orbit. And their final conclusion is stark. It will come down.
wow. Okay, and they compare this to, like, the dinosaur asteroid.
They do. They mentioned the dinosaur-killing asteroid was estimated, maybe 7 or 8 meters wide, but they assert that the one they are showing in the footage must be much, much larger.
Why? Because it's visible?
Because it's visible, they claim, with the naked eye, well, via these cameras, through the daytime atmosphere, implying it has to be significantly bigger than the Chicxulub impactor was thought to be before entry.
And the source speculates about what world leaders might do.
Yeah, they speculate world leaders will be forced to try and break it up, with explosives perhaps, but they warn if that happens, the pieces will fly in predictably.
And there's a biblical connection here, too.
Yes, they immediately connect this scenario to the book of Revelation, which, the source says, describes 2 such objects falling to Earth during a future time of great upheaval.
So if we try to connect all these dots, the black dot, the nebula, the eclipses, this asteroid, the source is painting a really consistent picture, isn't it? A very detailed story of active, ongoing concealment.
Incredibly detailed, yes. And it goes beyond just eclipses and asteroids. The recording briefly touches on other anomalies, too.
Like what?
Things like a flashing sun effect, pink orbs that seem to rotate faster than the sun itself, even a fast, rotating red crater-pocked orb, allegedly seen in footage from Sitka, Alaska, spinning much faster than our sun.
A red cratered orb, wow. And what about that pink reflection you mentioned?
Ah, yes, the oddly shaped pink reflection. They claim this appears daily on thousands of these weather cameras, and it always points, like an arrow, they say, to the exact location of whatever object is being eclipsed or concealed at that moment.
And what do they say causes that reflection?
They claim it's a reflection of some kind of equipment working together with the black dot system to achieve the concealment.
So it's part of the machinery, essentially.
That's the idea. And they even go so far as to identify what they call an aircraft, seen in footage from Edna Bay. This aircraft, they claim, is casting the pink reflection.
An aircraft casting the reflection.
Yeah, and they specify it's always seen flying in front of or on top of the eclipsing celestial object, precisely to aid in hiding it.
The sheer scale of this alleged operation is, It's hard to fathom.
It really is. The source uses the phrase untold trillions spent on all this technology. Technology to hide large objects, bend light, and blur objects to make them imperceptible.
Including things like enormous lenses.
Yes, enormous lenses, specifically designed, they claim, to hide an entire approaching celestial system, not just single objects.
An entire system.
And this truly massive, almost unimaginable undertaking, according to the source. This leads us directly to the broader theological interpretation that's woven through the whole recording.
Right, because it's not just about the physics or the visuals for them.
Not at all. It introduces their core belief that we are living right now in the very last days, just before the biblically foretold time of the Great Tribulation.
And the concealment, the hiding of all this,
Yeah.
why are they doing it, according to the source?
The source is very explicit about this. They state that the enemies of Christ are hiding this information for one specific reason: to prevent people from turning to Christ before it's too late.
But they frame this warning almost as good news for some people.
Yes, for faithful followers of Christ, it's presented as good news. Their material promises the rapture,
The rapture being.
where Christians who are found living in holiness will be removed from the earth before the arrival of the Great Tribulation. They reference a specific Bible verse, Luke 21:36.
Okay, that phrase, living in holiness, that seems pretty key. How does the source define that? What does that mean to them?
Good question. According to the source, living in holiness is pretty straightforward. It means following the Ten Commandments and also Christ's teachings as laid out in the New Testament.
Following the rules, basically.
Essentially, yes. And they actually critique what they call most churches nowadays.
How so?
They claim most churches don't teach this kind of holiness anymore, suggesting it's because they're afraid of losing members and, well, losing revenue if they preach too strict a message.
And the source also warns against other beliefs.
Very strongly. It specifically calls out what it labels a lie from the demonic realm.
Which is?
The belief in things like fourth dimensional ascension, or the general idea that, all good people automatically go to heaven.
They reject that idea completely.
Completely. They
Yeah.
clarify that, in their view, heaven is only available to those who have accepted Jesus into their hearts and lives. Full stop.
And they use an analogy, right? About a house.
Yeah, it's quite vivid. They say simply being a good person isn't enough to get into heaven. You can't just knock on the door of some stranger's fine house and expect to move in just because you're generally a nice person.
You need a connection.
You need to know, love, trust, and believe in God, according to the source. It's about that personal relationship and commitment.
So, wrapping it all together, the source ultimately concludes that the whole purpose for human existence is what?
To choose to love Christ out of your own free will and live according to that love. That's the ultimate choice and purpose they present.
Wow. It's certainly a comprehensive narrative they've built from, pixels on a weather camera feed all the way to the ultimate fate of humanity.
It really is. It presents both this highly technical, almost sci-fi explanation for alleged celestial phenomena, and then layers on top this profound, urgent, spiritual interpretation of what it all means.
It definitely makes you think about how different people can look at the same sky, the same world, and see, well, completely different realities and meanings.
It really does. The interconnectedness of belief, perception, and what one considers reality.
Indeed. So a final thought for our listeners. When you next look up at the sky, or maybe when you just consider the different narratives shaping our understanding of the world, what do you choose to believe and why?